Hello soulmates, in today's class I'm going to be showing you how to draw different types of necklines. As we know, one of the things that can be used to elevate basic dresses could be the neckline. So in today's class I'm going to be showing you how to draw different types of necklines, and I am going to be dividing this class into two. So the first part is going to have the basic necklines, and the second is going to have those other complicated necklines. So if you're a beginner and you're thinking of different ways to style your basic dress to actually look like a bossy or classy dress, this tutorial is for you. So the things that you would need for this tutorial are your pattern paper, or you can use a fabric, or even a plain sheet, okay, and then a pencil and eraser. I would advise you to use a pencil because you would be cleaning and be drawing and all of that, especially if this is your first time of getting to learn about necklines. So do not forget to click on the subscribe button and also click on the notification bell so that whenever I post any other tutorial, you will be the first to know. And if this class is what you're interested in, let's get right into it. So with me here, I have pattern papers that I'm going to be using to draft my neckline as so, okay? So I have about 12 pattern papers right here. So I am going to be showing you how to make these materials. I have my pencil right here. I do love to use pencil, especially when I'm using a white pattern paper. I have my scissor right here. I have a tip. I have a ruler that is going to help me out. So basically, these are the things that we need for this class, okay? So let's get right into it. And we're going to be starting with the round neckline. Of course, I know that all of you have actually seen a dress or worn a dress with a round neckline. This is the very basic neckline that you can have. This neckline is on t-shirts, all those t-shirts, it's on polos, it's on so many clothes that you can have. It's on basic dresses. This is the very first neckline that you would learn how to cut, okay? So I am going to be showing you how to do this. So let's start with my pattern paper. So this is going to be stain. So this is going to be representing, let me see. Okay. So this is going to be representing our fabric, for instance. Like I always say to you, because you're a beginner and I assume you do not really know much about sewing, endeavor to always use a pattern paper. It will help you, okay? It will stop you from wasting a lot of fabrics and all of that. So learn with your pattern paper first, then you go ahead to transfer it into your fabric. So let's start with how to draft the basic round neckline, okay? So look at the way this basic round neckline looks. I hope you can see everything right here. So you see how it looks, okay? So we're going to do this right here. So let's assume this is the part that I am going to be drafting my neck. Of course, this is the center, okay? So this is folded into two. Okay, so I fold my pattern into two like so, and then the next thing I am going to do is to measure the measurement I am going to use. So for the round neck, I would be using, okay, before I tell you what I would be using, I'm going to give you a formula to find your round neck. There's always a simple formula in finding your round neck. So now the basic formula to find your round neck is simple. The circumference of your neck. Now when I mean circumference, that's your neck, your entire neck round, okay? When you take your tape, I taught you how to measure. So when you take your tape and you measure around your neck, that is called the circumference. So the entire circumference like that divided by 5 would give you what we call the neck width, okay? So this is the neck width. The neck width actually is the wideness of your neck. I hope you understand. I'm trying to break it into very simpler terms so that you would not be confused, okay? So when you divide the circumference of my neck, so my neck, for instance, is 15. Divided by 5, I have 3 inches right here. So the width of my round neck would be 3 inches, okay? And then over here, we have circumference divided by 6. This is for the depth. Now the depth is how deep your neckline can be. So this is a basic round neck, and the basic round neck is not expected to be too big, too deep, right? If it's too deep, then it's another neckline entirely. Okay, so a basic round neck is just that neckline that fits perfectly when you wear it, okay? So here is going to give me 2.5 after dividing it by 6. And this is going to be the width. Well, this is going to be the depth right here. Okay, so this is basically what I am going to be using for this tutorial right now. Okay, so for the width, of course, I said I was going to use 3 inches. Always remember to put it on fold, okay? Because 3 inches on one side would not work. So it has to be on fold so that 3 inches on one side will now turn around to be 6 inches for perfect fittings, okay? So this is 3 inches right here. I am going to be marking my 3 inches at this point. Now, I am going to mark my depth to be 2.5 inches. Okay, so that is my depth. Now I am going to be using a ruler. If I am drafting this on my own, I would just draft it and curve it together, because definitely I know how it is going to be. But as much as I am not drafting this on my own, I have to teach you and show you what to do so that you'll be able to have a perfect drafting. So now draw a box. Like what I'm going to do is to place my ruler like so, and draw a box that takes it over like so. So I'm going to be using the edge of this box to actually show you how to draft a perfect curve, okay, for your neckline. So at this point right here, I am going to place my tape and find the midpoint. Okay, and then I would do the same thing right here. So the midpoint of these 3 is going to be 1.5. Okay, so then I'm just going to extend my curve from this point right here to meet up with this point right here. Okay, so basically my round neck is going to be like so. So this is my round neckline as so I'm going to just go ahead and cut it out and show you what a round neckline does look like. Okay, and I have my round neckline right here. Okay, so we move over to the next neckline. This neckline also is very simple. Okay, the next neckline over here is the V neckline. I am certain that even if it's not every one of you, at least 90% of you have worn a dress with a V neckline. As the name implies, V neckline should be very simple because it's just a V, right? So I'm going to be showing you how to go about that. So let's draft a V neckline. So I have my pattern paper like so, and the measurement I am going to keep using is the measurement width, my 3 inches width, right? But the depth actually determines, or the neckline actually determines the depth. So I am going to go ahead and I would start by measuring 3 inches for my width, right? So from this point right here, I'm going to measure 3 inches for my width. Okay, now since this is basically a V neckline, it depends on how deep you want your V neckline to be. Okay, you must have seen some V necklines that plunge into the chest. You see some V necklines that basically just end somewhere here. Anyhow your V neckline is going to be depends on you. Personally, I love moderation, so my V neckline is going to be somewhere not revealing. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So from this point, I would love to take my V neckline at 4 inches right here. Now, when I draft out the 4 inches, I am going to use my ruler. Just draft it like so, and then meet up to this point from my 3 inches. And your V neckline is ready. If you want, you can first of all draw a box so that you'll be very sure, okay? But this is what I am going to do because there's no need to go ahead with the box again. V neckline is also very simple, right? So I am going to use my scissor and I am going to be cutting out the V neckline. So this is basically what a V neckline looks like. So now the next neckline we're going to be looking at is the boat neckline. I'd like to see in the comment section how many of you have actually seen a boat neckline dress, okay, a dress with this neckline. The boat neckline looks similar to the round neckline, but then the difference between the boat neckline and the round neckline is that the round neckline is just round, okay, but the boat neckline, as the name implies, is like a boat, right? So I'm going to be showing you the difference as we're going to be cutting through. All right, so I have my pattern paper as so, and I am going to go ahead to mark my boat neckline. Now, one thing you should understand when drafting a boat neckline is that the wider the width of the neckline, the smaller the depth of the neckline. I don't know if you understand. Looking at the picture right here, you're going to see my both neckline right here. This part is wider and this part is smaller. If it goes wider, it will come up, okay? So the wider this goes, the shorter or the smaller this is. So let me just get right into drafting our boat neckline. All right, so for my boat neckline, I am going to be using about 5 inches wide. Okay, so let's say I want to use 5 inches wide. You can decide to use, I would advise you use from 5 inches wide upper, 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches, but not anything less. Okay, don't use 4, it's going to make it look like a round neck. Don't use 3, it's going to make it look like a round neck. Use from 5 up. If you want to be moderate with your boat neckline, 5 is proper. 5 is better, okay? So I would go with 5 inches right here. So let's assume I have 5 inches for my width. Now, I told you that the wider the neckline, the smaller the neck depth, okay? So I am going to be using about 2 inches right here so that my curve would actually show that this is a boat neckline. So I'm going to be using about 2 inches right here. Okay, so to do this, I would just rule a line to meet it up as so. Remember, the reason I am doing this is to be able to have my drafting. Like I always say, I am doing this so that you who is learning for the first time would find it very easy to draft your boat line, okay? So after getting your box like so, there are 2 methods you can actually use to do this very simply. You can decide to go with the midpoint method, okay, by finding the midpoint and then drafting it from there. Or you can actually decide to start from here and draft your boat neckline. So like I've done here, I started from the very beginning and I have drafted my boat neckline. And ta-da! My neckline is ready. Of course, it's ready because it is very simple to draft, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, like I did before, to trim this out so that you can see the beauty that this neckline has, okay? Now, quick tip, whenever you're cutting out your neckline, be very careful because if you leave some alterations, maybe some jumping effects, I don't know if you understand what that means, you would end up not having a very smooth neckline, okay? So make sure that you trim it well right here, okay? So if you look at my round neckline, there is a big difference between both of them. This is a boat neckline and it's really beautiful, and this other one is a round neckline and it's also beautiful. So both necklines are beautiful. You can use it whenever you want, however you want, for whichever dress that you're looking for, okay? Which one would you like to choose? Is it the boat neckline or the round neckline? Which one would you like to make with your dress? Put that in the comment section. I would be reading lots of comments from now henceforth, okay? So let's move over to the next neckline. Okay, the next neckline here is the square neckline. If you've ever worn a dress with a square neckline, I want to see that in the comment section. With a yes, I have worn a dress with a square neckline before. How to draft a neckline, just like this V neckline, okay? The square neckline is also very simple. Like I told you earlier, these are simple necklines that you can actually draft or you can actually put on in your dress as a beginner and look super stunning, okay? So now let's get right into drafting the square neckline. The square neckline is not difficult, right? And the square neckline would always have the same sides. As a square has the same sides, it has the same equal sides. So if I am drafting a square neck right here, to make it square, I am going to make sure that both sides are equal. So I would just use 3 inches and 3 inches, okay? So I'll use 3 by 3 inches to draft my neckline. So as usual, I will just mark out my 3 inches right here and also mark out my 3 inches right here. And then I am going to use a ruler to actually connect the lines. So I have my lines here connected, and the next thing I am going to do is to just cut this out. It is very easy, okay? It is very easy to go about. It's not stressful. Once you're done, okay? And I have my U neckline ready. Is this not beautiful? If you want to make your dress next time, please use a U neckline. It's always beautiful. It shows that you're a boss lady or something. Come on, U necklines, they're also beautiful, right? So this is a U neckline. Now after a U neckline, I am going to be moving ahead to draft a sweetheart neckline. Okay, so for a sweetheart neckline, you can actually use a sweetheart neckline on an off shoulder, or you can use it on a normal neckline, okay? So I'm going to be showing you how to make a sweetheart neckline on a normal neckline, okay? So this is what a sweetheart neckline looks like. It has this curve like this. That is why it is called sweetheart. You know, that kind of love-shaped curve, right? A love shape is like this. You have a love shape looking like this, right? Okay, so this particular part here shows that it's a sweetheart neck. It has to do with love at the end of the day, okay? That's why we call it sweetheart neckline. All right, so how do we go about drafting a sweetheart neckline? I'm going to be showing you this in a couple of minutes. So to draft my sweetheart neckline, depending on how, now everything neckline depends on how your client wants the neckline to be, okay? How you want the neckline to look. So in case I want to draft a neckline with a sweetheart plunge inside, and then I want it to be moderate, I don't want it to be too wide, or I just want it to look like a normal neckline but just the difference of the sweetheart inside, okay? So basically this is what you're going to do. So I'm going to be marking about 4 inches right here, okay? And then I am going to be marking maybe like 5 inches right here, okay? And then I am going to be using my ruler to connect right here. Okay, so now at this point right here, I have been able to form a square, a box rather. So to be able to get my sweetheart neckline, I would determine where I want my sweetheart plunge to actually start from. So to do that, I am just going to place my tape right here and mark the point at which I want it to start from. You could use 3, you could use 2.5, you could use 2, you could use 4. It actually depends on how your neckline is going to be, okay? So for the sake of this class, I am going to be using about 2.5 inches. I'm going to be using the midpoint of my neck depth, okay? So here is 2.5 inches. And of course, this is where your sweetheart is going to plunge towards. If you turn it open as so, it is going to give you that sweetheart you're looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and I would use a free hand and I would draft it around here. Now, if you have a pattern curve ruler, which I know that most of you would not have because you're just starting out, it's not a problem. Just use the method that I am using to be able to draft this out. It is very, very easy, okay? So I will just go ahead to draft this out. Did you see how easy it was for me? If you know that you might not be able to draft it out as simple as I am doing, you can just decide to lighten your pencil like this and form your curve, okay? So at this point right here, I am going to cut it out. A sweetheart neckline can also look like this, right? That is also the same thing. The difference is that one is deeper than the other, or whatever you want it to be, okay? It actually depends on what you want your neckline to be. So I can decide to draft it from this point right here. I can also decide to cut it out on this point. So whichever one looks good for me is what I am going to use. So in this case, I'm going to be going by this particular one for the sake of our class, okay? So now this is what my sweetheart looks like. So sweetheart neckline is a go-to whenever you want to rock that beautiful dress, okay? So the next neckline we are going to do is basically the scoop neckline. This is otherwise known as the U neckline, okay? Scoop neckline can also be called a U neckline. So what makes this a scoop? We already know how scoops look like, right? They're always like this. So definitely this is why it is called a scoop neckline. And also this is a U neckline because a U is always like this. And it's very different from square, and it's also very different from a round neckline. So for the scoop neckline right here, the neck depth is always deeper than that of the neck width, okay? You can decide to use 6 inches neck depth, but then your width would always remain 3 or 4. Anything bigger than that is no more a scoop neckline. It will not show you what a U is supposed to look like, okay? So let's get started with how to draft this scoop neckline right here. For the sake of this tutorial, I would use about 3 inches, and then I would use about 4 to 5 inches for my neck depth. I'm just going to place my tape and I would mark my 3 inches, okay? And then after marking my 3 inches, I would go about here and I would mark about 4 inches right here, or maybe 4.5. Let me use 4 inches right here, okay? And I would go ahead and draw a box to form this. The next thing I am going to do is to just go ahead and maybe just use my hand and then mark it as so. Yeah, it might be very simple for me because I have been doing this for a very long time. So you don't expect to just be better like that, okay? So it is very easy for me. Please always use the other method of finding the midpoint. When you find the midpoint, it's very easy for you to be able to draft. Just find the midpoint, draft down, and then find the midpoint here, draft down, and it's easy, okay? So I would go ahead and cut this out. So now this is what my neckline actually looks like. So I'm going to be comparing this with the round neckline, okay? So this is a round neckline. This is a normal round neckline, and this is a scoop neckline. Yeah, they look similar, but they are not the same because here the neck depth is actually deeper, okay? Whenever you see a dress that the neck depth is deeper, know that that is a scoop neckline and not a round neckline. A round neckline is just that neckline that you see in polos that you buy, that you see in very basic dresses like that, okay? Or ready to wear that just have a simple neckline. Anything more than that could be a boat neckline or a scoop or U neckline. I hope you understand all the necklines I have done so far. Okay, just so you remember, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please and please subscribe to the channel, as this will help me post super beautiful and explanatory videos that you can always reach out to. And whenever I post videos like this, you would get notifications very easily. Drop your comments. Did you like the tutorial? Was it explanatory? Do you have any question whatsoever? I am always here to attend to you. See you in the next class. Bye.